studio's premise was like two different things. Like one, on a speculative side, we were playing around with materiality, and on an architectural point towards it, it was in the end going to be a library in Atlanta. It's always asking me which softwares I use. So modeling, I use Rhino. Right from the left top side, like modeling, I use Rhino, Grasshopper, Maya, ZBrush. I would switch the order. We did everything on Rhino. We didn't use any fancy modeling software. We didn't use Maya. We didn't use ZBrush. We only use Rhino because of the geometry and the formal aspect of it. And to render stuff and simulate materiality, we did like Keyshot. So Keyshot is really nice with its glass sort of material. So especially when I'm working with glasses, I like to do it on Keyshot because it does it really fast. So to render all the turntables, everything was done on Keyshot. Then we use Unity as the gaming engine, because when you do AR and VR stuff, it's all like in gaming engine, force the structure and the geometry of the building. It was like an exoskeleton almost. And then, so that was exoskeleton. And then you have like huge mullions on the exterior of the building that comes after this. You'll see, so the mullions and like the glass together like creates it as an optical object. So all the spaces, and it was inclined on the site, so it could like create like sheltered exterior spaces that people can then use within the urban fabric, because it was like a dense thing. And this was on site. Yeah, and this is our final model. This was a model we made, which was 3D printed, laser cut, and we homed it in the robot lab with the robots. So everything was simulated by the robot. Yeah, this is in detail shot. And then, so these were some of like the mood boards and the renders that we did to simulate the materiality. And this was like, on the right side, it was a tinier version of the same model we did for midterm, which was all out of like frosted glass and casting sort of resin. So within that, on the right top side, you'll see like a piece, like almost like a soap looking piece inside, which is all like cast resin. And this was the AR component to the project. So this, whatever you see inside like architecture worlds, design events, were all like tabs that you could like almost click on the internet, but on the building. So if someone used their phone or like AR glasses in the future, like they could like sort of interact with the huge vortex that was there. So this was like the vortex of knowledge. So people would like click on it and then you could like explore whatever you want. So so this was considered as a digital library. So part of the rooms were all like empty. There was nothing. It was just like blank spaces that would then have content on it based off of what you choose from the screen. So there's a self-curated aspect to it towards learning when you go to a library. So this was that, when you would choose what you want to learn on, and then you would select it on the outside. And then when you go on the inside, the spaces would be self-curated to those content. And then these were like the drawings and exploded axon to like show how the spaces inside work. So I used to stay up watching all the reviews. I really like the way how they question design, because it's speculative design. It's not actually like conventional design. So you don't, and I was really interested in that part of like design, because that's where like all the creativity comes in. It's more creative and it's more problem seeking than problem solving. So I like that aspect towards like architectural thinking, which is what made me choose. Is so driven by the aesthetic, and everyone in SCI-Arc sort of agrees to it. And I think SCI-Arc is also, I mean, people join SCI-Arc for this one reason. It's for the aesthetic. But then within SCI-Arc, like the aesthetics is almost like a given. So we don't even talk about the aesthetics that much, I would say, because it's given for sure. And it's 100% taken that you would do a good looking project. So we focus on other things, the sort of like the tools and the methodologies, and just the way of like learning within SCI-Arc automatically trains you to do a good looking project. So it looks good looking no matter what. So we don't even talk about it. But the reason why I like Elena is because I think our aesthetics like match.
I'm curious to know how you applied AI in your design.
So as of now, there's so many applications to AI. SCI-Arc is very much into the visual aspect of AI. So we use a lot of GANs and cycle GANs so the way I used it was all style transfer. It's called style transfer, where you put one image and you give a target image, then you have like a style image, and then it takes the target image and applies the style to it. So you can sort of like create collages that with intelligence, that it's not like a regular collage where you see the edge, but it's sort of like edgeless, and it sort of creates like this homogeneous picture. And then ask everyone to like put their lot of time into the things they like, and including learning. I always like to keep a screen aside just to learn. So I have like a YouTube video playing or something that I listen to constantly while I work. So I also use the robot lab. So in terms of like the model filming, there was like 3 robot arms. One was showing light on the model, one was filming it, and one was actually turning the model the base. So you could get that all 3 like working at the same time. And it's more precise than us just doing it by hand with a stabilizer even. So we used a robot lab for filming. And in terms of making the model,
Can you run us through the curriculum of SCI-Arc?
yeah, so SCI-Arc, so the first SCI-Arc, M.Arch 2, the course that I do, the first year you don't have any control of it. They teach you basics of speculative design, all the skills and all that. And so it starts with IDD, which is an intense like 1.5 week workshop, design workshop. And they teach you Maya, ZBrush, anything that a conventional architecture school won't teach you, because Maya and ZBrush is not considered very architectural software. It's like animation and modeling software. So yeah, so we learned that, and then they teach us to render in Arnold for Maya. So first 1 week is just like 3D modeling and getting to work the very SCI-Arc way. And then after that, the first semester is called 2GAX, and then the next semester is called 2GBX, which is basically the first year, the fall and the spring. So in the fall, they do basically, the studio is broken up into tinier studios. You get to cycle between them. I got to cycle between them. This year, they changed the format a little bit. But basically, you'll have 5 instructors, and you will cycle through all the 5 instructors at some point, and then you do tinier projects to sort of like get different aspects of like fiction and narrative, and like how to speculate on design or how to look at certain projects through a certain lens. And then that's studio, and that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then we have 4 seminar subjects. One is called tectonics, architectural tectonics, which is more like our construction drawings back in India and technical stuff. So you will learn about, we used to study, like they will pick like 15 buildings with very good facade systems, so highly advanced stuff. And then we break them down. We study like the construction, the materials, the performance of it, and all of that. Then we have one seminar called structures, where you learn large scale structure, and in structural in general, to how to like solve really complex geometry, because that's what we do at SCI-Arc. So it's sort of all the subjects link into each other. So what you do in studio is sort of like what you would do in structures to like sort of solve it. And then tectonics will help you like think about all the projects and all the things you design, and how you could like innovate within like creating all these complexities that we do in design. And then we have history theory. It's everything in history theory is almost like, it's not like regular conventional architectural history theory. You don't learn about Renaissance or like the Gothic architecture or whatever. Like we start from the internet and the digital face of architecture. So maybe the 90s, of where like internet was first, like they started the computational design in Columbia and AA and all of that stuff. So the discourse like sort of starts from there. And then we talk about everyday things. History is also as much as like what happened yesterday, or what happened on log, what did they publish, what did Sucker Punch publish, or what is this architect saying about this, and all that argument. So yeah, it's very contemporary, and it's very linked to what's happening right now. So that's why I loved history, because then they put it to you in like bite-sized pieces of like theories of how you can like understand all of this. And then it continues on to like 2GBX, where 2GBX is more of the actual linking part of what is contemporary, and how is that like arrived from the previous like postmodernism, futurism, and all that stuff. So that is what you do in history theory in 2GBX. And then the studio is, again, you get this time one studio that you get allotted. So I got allotted L&M and Ferdini, and we were studying about materials and stuff. So every studio has its own like agenda, and they're like very small set of students. Like it's only 12 students per instructor, and you do everything in teams. Everything at SCI-Arc is in teams. Studio is in teams of 2. Tectonics and bigger like technical subjects are larger teams. Like tectonics is teams of 5 or 4, and then history is solo, structures is solo, and then yeah. So in 2GBX we have that, and then we have something called architectural services or systems, which is all the green energy, sustainability, all that stuff. And then there is extra seminars for earthquake resistant architecture and all of that, because California is prone to earthquakes, and if you want to get the licensing in California, you need to like have done that course. So we have that. Then right from the second year, it's free for all. You can do whatever you want. Like studios or vertical studios, seminars are all the stuff that you choose. There are some allotted things. Like for history, we have like 4 choices, and you can choose who you want to choose to do history with. So we had Sanford Quinter for history, Walid Beshti, who's an artist. So he does like that sort of architecture. And then we have Marika, and then we have Trummer. Trummer does like more urban stuff, and Marika does contemporary discrete. And she keeps changing her discourse. So there's all of that. And then for verticals, the choices again keeps changing every semester. So you get to choose whichever instructor you want. So if you want to do like actual buildings, you could choose an instructor who does buildings. If you want to do like something more like with robotics, then you could choose someone else. So there's a lot of choices in like what you choose, because SCI-Arc is like has that variety of like work in it. And yeah, that's when students actually get all the freedom. And then there is something called design development, which is like very critical for our graduation sort of a thing, which is basically we take at least like here in the US, we have like one stage between like concept design and then construction drawings, which is design development, where you develop the design and like make it more architectural. So that phase is what we learn as a huge team. So we pick one project that we've already designed. One team has designed a really nice project from 2GBX, the studio, and we take a chunk of it and then we design it in absolute detail, like fires, like we do simulations, we do structure, we do all the architectural services that would come into it. So all of that. And that is a huge subject, and that takes up a lot of time, and that's a team of 10. Then again, in the 4th semester, we have thesis prep. You start to prepare for your thesis for the last semester, which is in the summer, which is what I'm doing right now. And then you have another vertical studio and lots of seminars. So you can choose whatever you want. There are like history theory seminars. There are like 4 departments. One is like design studio. Apart from that, there's visual study courses, which is all about like how you create visuals and like all the technical tools and stuff like that. Then there is history theory, and then there's liberal arts, which is a lot of philosophy and stuff like that. And then there is applied studies. So applied studies is for anyone who's looking at more close to buildings and actually doing stuff like architectural things, conventional architectural things. Then applied studies courses, you have like more stuff in it. Yeah, that's basically SCI-Arc's curriculum.